Hey, Alex.
Hey, Kelly. Welcome to another episode of Dirt Nap City.
It's Thursday morning.
It's Thursday morning, as always. This is the show about interesting dead people. I want to talk today about somebody who is somebody who I've personally, I guess you could say, admired, at least been interested in for a long time. Always been really, really curious about this person, and a recent addition to our Dirt Nap City.
Okay.
Born in 1938 in Cincinnati, although you wouldn't associate him with Cincinnati or Ohio.
So it's not Johnny Fever or Venus Flytrap.
No.
From WKRP.
Or Johnny Bench.
Okay.
Died May 6, 2026.
Oh, wow. Okay. Just happened.
In Florida. But you also wouldn't associate him with Florida at all.
You know, a lot of people go to Florida because if you die there, there's less taxes. I've heard.
Well, his nickname was Captain Outrageous.
That sounds Canadian. That's a very Canadian sounding name. I know he wasn't Canadian. But okay, Captain Outrageous.
Captain Outrageous.
All right. What was his vocation?
Well, he had 2 Lifetime Achievement Emmys, but he also had a World Series championship. He was Time's Man of the Year in 1991, back when they were still calling it Man of the Year, I think.
Yeah. Okay. That's sort of antiquated, but
he has a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame in 2004. Okay. He had 2 biographies, one called Lead, Follow, or Get Out of the Way.
Oh, gosh. I feel like I should know this.
And another one called, and this is my favorite biography name, It Ain't As Easy As It Looks. I love it as a biography name.
I want to say like Reggie Jackson or was it a baseball player?
Nope. Was not.
Wait, you said he had a World Series?
I did say that.
But was he a coach?
Play baseball.
Was he Tommy Lasorda?
No.
He
was mostly known as an owner.
Was he okay, so he was Ted Turner?
Ted Turner.
Yeah.
Ted freaking Turner.
Ding 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 ding.
Right. 1995, of course, world champion Atlanta Braves.
Yeah.
They played at a stadium then known as Turner Field. You know, he hit a couple of his other fun quotes were early to bed, early to rise, work like hell, and advertise.
He was good with the Turner phrase, wasn't he?
Oh yeah. And also kind of a great piece of advice on success. You've got to be willing to fail was another great quote of his.
Yeah.
And another, this is a funny quote of his too. Look, I'm a very good thinker, but sometimes I grab the wrong word. I mean, I don't type my speeches, then sit up there and read them off the teleprompter. I, wing it.
I like the fact that he throws in there.
Yeah.
Wing it.
Winging it. Right?
Yeah. So I'll just tell you a quick story about Ted Turner. I never met him, but you know my friend Johnny, former radio host.
Yeah.
So Johnny worked for CNN for many years and did meet Ted Turner a number of times, and said he was pretty approachable.
Yeah. I imagine he was approachable. How much do you know about Ted Turner?
I know he owns a lot of buffaloes. Like he owns a lot of ranch land. Like he might be one of the largest landowners in the U.S.
Right?
Is that true?
Yeah.
I know he was, Mr. CNN. I know he was TNT, right? Dynamite. He was Turner. Is that Turner Network? Something
television.
Yeah. I always get him and Rupert Murdoch mixed up, so I don't know
And they
that.
were famously rivals. They really hated each other.
Yeah,
Really
yeah.
hated each other.
As they should, right? As they should. But that's about it. I know he had some dogs too, because Johnny said he would see Ted Turner walking these dogs in outside of the CNN headquarters. I think he lived at the top of it, maybe.
Yeah.
And wasn't he friends with Elton John, or Elton John was in Atlanta for a while too?
Elton John lived in Atlanta, so I'm sure they ran in the same circles.
Yeah. That's it.
All right. So, well, thanks everybody. Oh wait, no, this is my
learned some things. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
So let's start with. I'll go chronologically, but before I do that,
wait, did he drive an ambulance?
No.
Did he ever drive? Okay.
No, never did.
Let's get that out of the way.
I want to start first by talking about him as a sailor. And, that he was always interested in sailing. And I think sailing is a good place to start, because that's kind of it explains a lot about him. That when he wasn't sailing, he was kind of restless and intense and not able to relax. But sailing is where he was able to process his emotions and exert control and first prove himself too. And because sailing requires aggression and rapid decision making calculated risks, teamwork, being obsessed with like the weather, pushing yourself, that kind of thing, right?
When you say sailing, are you speaking of literally sailing with a sailboat, or are you talking about just being on the water? Like,
no, I'm talking about like racing sailboats.
Okay. So like rich man sailing.
Yeah. So he grew up sailing. He was always interested in that. And he was in the Olympic trials in 1964. Didn't make the Olympics, but do you remember back in the 70s, the America's Cup used to be real big?
Yeah.
America's Cup.
That's still a thing, isn't it? I think it is.
I think it is, yeah. But remember how it was really big, like in the 70s and 80s?
Yeah.
Well, he tried to win America's Cup first in 1974 and actually did win it in 1977. He was the skipper of a boat called the Courageous, and he was the main guy, and he won the America's Cup.
Mr. Outrageous on the Courageous?
That's right. Right.
Wow.
And in 1979, he was in a race called the Fastnet Race. And there was a big storm and boats were capsizing and some sailors even died. And it was just total chaos and he actually won that race too. So he wasn't just a guy who liked to go out on a boat. He was actually a very accomplished sailor. And in some of the biggest races, and he was one of the best sailors in the world.
Now, have you ever been on a sailboat?
Yeah.
There's a lot to it.
Oh yeah.
Like when you're traveling. I've been on a couple, but not in any sort of a capacity where I was doing anything other than just what I was told. Hold this rope, or pull this, or get out of the way.
Exactly. And just like his 1993 biography, it ain't as easy as it looks. In fact, one time I don't think it was my honeymoon, but we were on a vacation one time and I convinced my wife that because I had been on some sailboats, that I could do this.
You rented one or something?
Yeah. Like a sunfish or one of these.
Yeah.
And didn't take long before I realized I had no idea what I was doing out there, and got us out and couldn't get us back. So yeah, it's a tough, but that's nowhere near. No, these guys, these are big, powerful boats.
Yeah, they're going fast.
Yeah, they're going fast. Yeah, and they're racing each other, and yeah, it's great. So I just wanted to start with the sailing because I think that kind of always that push pull between being reckless but having to be under control. And I think sailing like taught him how to rein a lot of that, his inner desires in. His desires were to just be kind of out there and flamboyant and, say what he thinks, but knowing that wasn't always good for business. But there was always that struggle that you see in sailing. So, as you can imagine, growing up as a sailor, his dad had money. His dad was a billboard tycoon. And if you've ever seen a billboard, even these days, at the bottom of that billboard, you'll always, chances are you'll see the word Turner at the bottom of that billboard. I don't know if you could, next time you go see a billboard, notice it.
Yeah,
and you still see them. His dad owned the Turner billboard company.
Okay, so a media conglomerate before television.
Yeah, his dad owned a bunch of billboards and moved the family from Ohio. They moved to Savannah when he was 9 years old, and then he went to boarding school in Chattanooga, Tennessee.
Okay.
Ultimately went to college at Brown in Rhode Island and was on the debate team, captain of the sailing team, majored in classics. And his dad hated that idea, said it made him almost puke when he heard about that.
So this would have been in the like 1940s?
No, more late 50s.
Late 50s. What is majoring in classics even mean?
Like humanities, like learning the great, or English, okay. Maybe you'd call it English now, but learning like literature.
Okay.
So he later changed his major to economics, but didn't matter because he got expelled from Brown for having a girl in his room.
Oh, as one will.
And actually never went back and got his degree. He went back to give the commencement address at Brown in 1989, and they gave him an honorary degree, but
and said sorry.
That must always feel good when you get kicked out of somewhere and then they end up having you back as like the commencement speaker.
Yeah, yeah.
So in 1960, he's not in college anymore. So he went back to Georgia to become the general manager of his dad's one of the locations in Macon, Georgia.
Billboard empire
of the Billboard company. Yeah. And that was going to be kind of his life. But his dad committed suicide in 1963. So at 24 years old, Ted became the president and CEO of Turner Billboards and really turned that company into kind of a global business.
Wow.
Did great. And his dad was a good businessman and set him up. He made a lot of smart decisions. So they were, the company was not in debt at all. They had good cash reserves so he could go out and expand. And with this cash, Ted bought a bunch of radio stations in the late 60s and then sold all the radio stations to buy a UHF station in Atlanta, Channel 17. You remember UHF?
Oh, yeah. Channel 26 in Houston.
So UHF
39.
was all the channels 14 and above, right? So if you
ultra high frequency.
Right. So if you picture like an old fashioned TV, it has two knobs, right? And the first one, the top one is VHF, very high frequency. And that goes from 2 to 13.
Yeah. And there was a U. There was a U on the top knob. The letter U. You would put it on that U and then you turn the bottom knob. Right?
Yeah. The bottom knob would go from 14 to I think 69.
Yeah, it was somewhere up in the 60s.
Yeah. So he bought Channel 17 in Atlanta. That was a UHF station. And he changed the call letters. I don't remember what they were, but he changed it to WTCG, which stood for Turner Communications Group. But for advertising purposes, he used that as Watch This Channel Grow. WTCG. Watch this channel grow.
This channel grow. Wow, that's a stretch.
This channel grow.
That's
this channel grow. So, because back then, remember UHF stations? This was in the late '60s. UHF stations would not show a lot of great.
Yeah, they were mostly like reruns.
He showed old movies, from
wrestling.
The '40s, and he showed cartoons. And he showed classic sitcoms. And what would happen with these syndicated sitcoms back then was as newer sitcoms would become available, stations would, he would buy the older sitcoms from the station. So he was buying like Gilligan's Island and I Love Lucy and Star Trek and Bugs Bunny and shows like that. And then 1972, he bought the rights to televise Atlanta Braves baseball and Atlanta Hawks basketball games.
He realized sports was going to be a big thing on TV.
Well, he was just trying to find content.
Yeah, yeah.
You have to program this thing, so you're doing it with old things and baseball games and basketball games. Well, in 1976, the game changed because the FCC allowed WTCG to use a satellite to transmit his channel in Atlanta, his channel 17, nationwide to cable subscribers, and cable's TV was just starting then. In the
Is this how we got WGN?
That was in Chicago, right? That was the
Same kind of thing though. It was like a local station that was broadcast to other. Right. Okay, I never understood how that worked.
So the Atlanta WTCG, he called it the superstation, and eventually had 2 million subscribers to on various cable TV. Cable TV, not very many people had cable TV back then, but if you did, the idea of not just having 3 or 5 channels anymore, but maybe 50 channels.
Yeah.
And like you say, random, not satellite, but cable TV. It would where a cable company from your local area would grab channels in from satellites. By that time, by the time he got 2 million subscribers, his net worth was already $100 million just by doing this.
Just right? From the advertising, I guess. That was the main source of revenue, I would think.
Yeah. So in 1976, he actually bought the Atlanta Braves baseball team, and he bought them for $10 million.
Wow.
Now, $10 million and $1 million down. He only had to put $1 million down and buy the Atlanta Braves. Now, 10 million in 1976 is worth about 58 million today.
Okay.
The Atlanta Braves today are worth $3.3 billion.
Wow.
So that's not inflation. That's
just sports, professional sports.
And then in 1977, he bought the NBA team, the Atlanta Hawks, for $12 million. And he didn't even really care about being a sports owner. He did this for content. He bought these teams so he could use it for content. And it was it was a better business decision than just having the rights to these games. He actually owned the teams.
Well, and you could go beyond the games then too, right? You can actually do ancillary content. You can do interviews.
Absolutely.
You can do, celebrity, if you've got a hot player who's doing really well, you could take that person and put them on and, have them doing things. And
Well, and he was such a great marketer. Actually, when he bought the Hawks in 1977, the owner of the Hawks also owned the hockey team, the Atlanta Flames. And he said, I'll throw in the Flames for free. And Ted Turner turned him down on that. Probably a misstep. He probably should have taken that too.
Yeah.
It was really smart, this idea of, so now you've got, like you said, people from all over the country able to watch this Atlanta UHF station. And if you don't live in a major league city, you can watch the Atlanta Braves every day on TV. So he started calling the Braves America's team.
Oh yeah. You're expanding your fan base.
So if you lived in, Omaha, Nebraska, or, Boise, Idaho, or, Tampa, Florida, you were an Atlanta Braves fan because that was the team that you got to see every day. So they really did become America's team. They had fans. Well, now they weren't very good. They were the worst team in baseball. In 1970, around when he bought the team, so I said this was Channel 17. Well, they signed a free agent. One of the first, that was back when free agency was just starting in baseball. And there was this guy named Andy Messersmith, and he wore number 17. And Ted Turner persuaded, he had this crazy idea where for 1977, he was going to put nicknames on the back of jerseys instead of their real names.
Okay.
So you'd see names like Howdy and Nort and Cannon. And he asked
Mongo
Andy Messersmith to put the name Channel where his name should have been instead of
Channel
saying
17.
It would say Channel 17.
Oh, that's brilliant.
So Major League Baseball did not like this. They ordered him to stop doing this. They thought he was making a mockery of this great game. So it only lasted about 2 weeks. But you can see If you Google it, you can see pictures of old Andy Messersmith with the Channel 17 on his back.
Nice.
Just always advertising, right?
I guess he needed to find a player whose last name was Channel. That would have been ideal, right?
Yeah, I don't know if there's ever been a major league player with the name and Channel. In 1979, he changed the name of WTCG to WTBS.
WTBS, that's
TBS, Turner Broadcasting System.
Okay.
Now, actually, WTBS was actually the name of the MIT student radio station. So he had to strike a deal with them. He donated to them. He donated a new transmitter for $25,000. He gave them a new transmitter on the condition that they give up their name. So WTBS was the new Atlanta superstation.
Okay.
I mentioned that the Braves were a terrible baseball team. In 1977, they started. Had lost 16 games in a row. They're 8-21. So Ted Turner fires the manager and hires himself as the manager.
Okay.
He had never played baseball, never managed baseball at any level, but he said, if I'm smart enough to buy the team, I ought to be smart enough to manage it.
Yeah.
He was 38 years old, and I don't mean he was like calling down from his office. He wore the uniform. He filled out the lineup card. He sat in the dugout. He went. It was a game in
tobacco.
Yeah, a game in Pittsburgh. He was talking trash to the other manager. It was May 11th, 1977. They lost 2-1, but he was really happy with himself. He brought in a pinch hitter who got a double, so he thought he really knew how to do it. But Major League Baseball came down hard on this. They told him to get out of the dugout, never do that again. Apparently, there was a rule against managers owning stock in the team. So with that rule, they were able to ban him from managing the team. So, the Braves, most of that time, were a laughingstock. They were bad. In 1981, they were bad, and he fired their manager named Bobby Cox.
Okay. I've heard that name.
And in the press conference, at the beginning of the season, they asked him, Ted, who's on your short list for manager? And he said, this is my favorite Ted Turner quote, probably. He said, well, it would be Bobby Cox if I hadn't just fired him. We need someone like him around here. Well, the joke was on Ted Turner because he ended up hiring Bobby Cox in like 1989. And Bobby Cox ended up being the architect of the Braves dynasty once they finally did get good and ultimately did win that World Series in 1995. It was Bobby Cox that was first the general manager and then the manager of the team. So he was right on. They did need someone like Bobby Cox, but it's just so funny to right after you fire someone to go, yeah, that's just the kind of guy we need around here.
Like him, but not him.
Right, exactly. But it turned out to be him. In 1978, he gets this idea of a 24-hour news channel. Now, I think the first time anybody heard of the idea of a 24-hour news channel, it sounded ridiculous. The news was something you watched at 6:00, and it was like a half an
Walter
hour,
Cronkite.
and then went on about your day. There was no point. There's not enough things happening, and how would you even do that? And why would anybody watch news when it wasn't 6 p.m.? Just that. He was such a visionary that he saw that there was a demand for that. Or I guess maybe a better way to say it is he created a demand for that.
Yeah.
So he comes up with this idea in 1978, ran it by some people in the industry, and they estimated that it would cost about $20 million. You'd have to have an all electronic newsroom and all satellites. So you could get news.
You got to get stuff in quickly.
So he had another TV station in Charlotte. So he sold that station for $20 million. At the time, it was the largest sale ever for a local TV station, and actually funded this 24-hour news channel. Put the headquarters in Atlanta, as you mentioned, because it was non-union. So if you tried to do this in New York or LA, it would have cost way more than $20 million. But by using non-union all those jobs, you can imagine those technical jobs or union jobs.
Yeah.
And then he just had this idea that they were going to be on forever.
Wait, what year was this? 78?
It actually signed on in 1980.
Okay.
He had the idea in 1978. He said, "We won't be signing off until the world ends. We'll be on and we'll cover the end of the world live, and that will be our last event. We'll play the national anthem only one time on the 1st of June, 1980. And then when the end of the world comes, we'll play Nearer, My God, to Thee before we sign off." And he actually had a military band. He made a video of a military band playing that song, Nearer, My God, to Thee. So, and sometimes he would play that for reporters. And he was really he really said, like, we're going to play this. This is the last thing we're ever going to play.
Yeah, he was serious.
In the database, the video is tagged as "hold for release until the end of the world confirmed."
Now, I'll have to ask Johnny to verify that, because he had access to all their footage, I think.
The Hollywood Reporter said, there's no one in American history who's done more to change how the world gets his news, for better or for worse, than Ted Turner. And I think that's pretty accurate, right? I mean, all the bad stuff about cable news and 24-hour news, and certainly are bad things about feeding that beast, right?
Yeah.
But all the good parts about instant having, even right down to social media now, is how we get our news is so instantaneous. Just the idea of instant news, being beyond the morning and evening newspaper,
it was a routine, or it was a precedent that had been set years and years, centuries before, right, with newspapers and traditional media. And so, CNN became traditional media, but it was different at that time because, nobody. I kind of remember hearing about it and thinking that's weird, and my parents, for some reason, we never had cable TV. They refused to pay for it. So I only got to watch cable, MTV or CNN or whatever at other people's houses. Right. HBO. So
you were watching Friday night videos.
I was watching UHF. Pretty much, Brady Bunch and That's Incredible, mentioned earlier. But yeah, it was CNN always seemed a little highfalutin, if you will. It was kind of like, and it also, I think back then, people who watched the news, to me, at least as a kid, I thought were more intellectual. Now I think of just old people with their jaws hanging down going, I got CNN or Fox News or whatever they're watching, just brainless. Yeah.
He tried to buy CBS in 1981, but couldn't. The deal fell through. But in 1986, he bought MGM, United Artists, for $1.1 billion, and then sold back the studio part of MGM. That wasn't the part he was really interested in, but he kept the library. So this was all MGM films prior to 1986. That was 2,200 films. And then he would syndicate those films back to TV stations all over the country. And one of the most controversial things he did with these movies in the mid 80s was he bought the technology and tried to colorize black and white films. Do you remember this?
Yeah, I do remember that.
So his idea was that younger people weren't going to watch any of these old classics, but maybe if we made them color, made them like new again.
Like The Wizard of Oz.
No, he never.
That was in color. Yeah,
that was already in color. Like It's a Wonderful Life.
Okay.
So did you ever see a colorized movie?
Yeah. It looked creepy. Mm-hmm. It didn't look quite right.
And a lot of backlash. Like, it really didn't please anybody because the younger people still weren't interested in watching old movies. And then the older people who thought of these as classics were, this was a real affront. Like, it was like defacing them, right?
Yeah.
In fact, this is why the American Academy of the AFI, the Film Institute, instituted that whole national reserving films for like posterity, right? And I don't think you can colorize these films anymore. I think that was an experiment that did not work. Occasionally you can still see colorized versions of some of these things, but they're largely out of print. Nobody wants to see them anymore.
Right.
In 1988, he bought Jim Crockett Promotions, which was a wrestling company, and renamed it WCW. And it was the main competitor of WWF. And he went and he got Hulk Hogan and he got Randy Macho Man Savage. And he started this thing on TBS called Monday Nitro, and then later TNT called Monday Nitro to compete with WWF. Actually ended up selling it back to WWF in 2001. And that was another one of his rivals. You mentioned Rupert Murdoch. Vince McMahon was a big rival of his.
Oh, okay.
In 1999, Vince McMahon said, "All I'll say about Ted is he's a son of a bitch. Other than that, he's probably not a bad guy, but I don't like him at all." Is that a backhanded compliment? Is that a sandwich insult? I don't know.
I didn't realize.
Not a bad guy. I don't like him at all.
I didn't realize he was that invested in wrestling.
Yeah, like, WCW. Do you remember WCW?
I really don't.
Do you remember Monday Nitro?
Again, was it a cable thing? We didn't have cable.
Yeah.
See, yeah. I only got to watch the WWF and the Houston Mid-South on UHF on.
So by the time this happened in 1988, you'd probably moved on.
Yeah, I wasn't watching wrestling
college,
in 88. Yeah.
In 1988, he also started the TNT network that you mentioned.
Yeah,
and the first show they ever showed on that?
Was it
when we were in college? I remember this being a big deal that they were.
No, what was the first show?
Gone with the Wind. It was the first thing they ever showed.
Yeah. I mean, that seems right.
In 1991, he bought our friends Hanna-Barbera. Bought the studio. He bought
so much crossover.
Yeah. And in 1992 formed the Cartoon Network to play a lot of these Hanna-Barbera shows.
Okay. Hey, I've got all this IP. I need to play it somewhere.
It was all about content. It was all about just finding niche programming. I mean, niche channels, and then creating channels that were niche, and then buying content for those channels. In 1994, Turner Classic Movies, TCM, came out. You've heard of that one?
Yeah. Yep.
Have you ever heard of the Goodwill Games?
I have. I've heard that name. I don't know much about it.
So you recall in 1980, the Olympics were in Moscow, and the U.S. boycotted those games.
I do remember
because of
that,
their invasion of Afghanistan.
Okay.
And then in retaliation, in 1984, the Olympics were in Los Angeles, and the Soviet Union boycotted those to get back at us for 1980.
Yeah.
So during this time, there was no Olympics where both the U.S. and the Soviets, the two powers in sports and in the world, there were no Olympics that they both competed in from 1976 to 1988. So seeing that and and the Olympic movement was actually in real trouble. That this was the height of the Cold War. I mean, this is like Rocky IV time,
Yeah, I will break you.
Ted Turner says, well, the Olympics might be going away. That's not good. I believe in the Olympic ideal. I'll make my own Olympics. Again, he has the platforms for content, right? I'll just make my own Olympics. And in 1986, basically came up with his own Olympics called the Goodwill Games in Moscow. And this was back when, nobody broadcast from Moscow. And I remember he had like Larry King was the host of the studio host of the Goodwill Games. And there were 3,000 athletes from 79 countries. Most importantly, the U.S. and the Soviet Union were there.
They were competing against each other.
18 different sports, tons of stars. All the top athletes were there. It didn't do well financially. Lost tens of millions of dollars, but he didn't do it for money. He did it because, well, you could say one, he saw an opening, but also he believed in this idea that, look, as long as these countries are competing in sports, they're not He was very afraid of nuclear war. That became something he was
He
really
didn't want to have to
always
play that song
interested in.
and do the sign off.
That's right. So they had the Goodwill Games in 1986 in Moscow, 1990 in Seattle, 1994 in St. Petersburg, Russia. Now, by then, Russia is Russia.
Right. Soviet
And
Union
so the
collapsed.
Cold War is kind of melting a little bit. 1998, New York City. 2000, they did a winter Goodwill Games in Lake Placid. And actually, 2001 was the last Goodwill Games in Brisbane, Australia. The only one that wasn't in either the US or Russia. And by that time, it had kind of run its course. But it also, you might say, it did what it was supposed to do. It participated. It was part of that engine that ended the Cold War, right? Or brought the two sides back together.
So people could still donate their things from a garage sale to the Goodwill Games.
That's right. You mentioned him being a landowner.
Yeah.
Being one of the largest private landowners in America. At one point, he owned 2 million acres of land.
Wow.
That's about the size of, it's a little bigger than Delaware. It's about the size of Puerto Rico. It's like owning 5 Houstons put together. Now, that wasn't 12 million contiguous.
Right. Just in different places.
Montana, New Mexico, Nebraska, South Dakota, and Kansas. His largest single ranch was the Vermejo Ranch in New Mexico. It was 500,000 acres. It's larger than a lot of national parks. And he had one of the largest, you mentioned buffalo. We call him bison, Kelly.
Bison, yeah.
He had one of the largest private bison herds in the world. He had 50,000 bison at one point.
And he had restaurants. He had a steakhouse,
right,
I think.
Ted's Montana Grill.
Yeah.
They're still around. There's 38 locations today.
Have you eaten one?
No. There aren't any around here.
I don't know where I was traveling on a work trip one time, and I had the bison at Ted's Montana Grill, and it was good.
I actually do enjoy bison a lot, just around here. But he thought that he really believed in bison and being like ecologically superior to cattle. He thought they were better because they're native, unlike cattle, who aren't native to North America. They came from Europe. Bison or buffalo are native to North America, and so they handle the extreme weather better than cattle do. They require less shelter than cattle. They can handle snow better than cattle.
They're much cooler looking.
They're very cool. They resist disease, especially the disease that's like, the pestilence that comes from the North America.
Yeah. Mad cow disease.
Overall, they just kind of need less humans, fewer humans to survive than cattle do. Cattle are kind of needy. They need humans, and bison don't.
Got to be milked, and
not to mention the meat is leaner and healthier. So he did promote these, just like CNN, just like the Goodwill Games, just like the Braves. You create something, and then you need a platform. So you could say that the bison was the content for the Ted's Montana Grill, or vice versa. I don't know.
And interesting that he sourced. The restaurant was built because he had a source for it, so he could source it all himself.
Yeah, they say like 90% of the meat from for those restaurants is from one of his ranches. Yeah,
that would make sense.
I was just looking at the menu yesterday. Do you ever heard of Captain Planet?
Yeah, was it a ecological cartoon show or something?
Exactly.
Yeah.
In 1990, he was big on the ecology and wanting, and he thought that the best chance that this planet would have is to start kids young, teaching them about this.
Kind of like Smokey the Bear for what Smokey was for forests, Captain Planet was for the earth.
He had whole channels that he could promote this stuff. So in 1990, he came up with this cartoon called Captain Planet and the Planeteers. It was 5 teenagers from all over the world, and they had magical rings, each representing earth, wind, fire, water, and heart. And then when things looked dire for them, they would combine their rings together and summon Captain Planet. Ooh. Can you picture this guy?
Yeah,
He had
yeah,
blue
yeah,
skin and
yeah,
green hair and kind of a
yeah.
mullet. It was meant to teach kids about recycling and conservation and pollution and environmental responsibility. And a lot of people say that it probably wasn't the sole cause, but millennials who were kids in 1990 are famously kind of more environmentally conscious than our generation, or
Yeah,
certainly
yeah,
boomers. Um, that Captain Planet was one of those things that it made environmentalism seem normal to these millennial kids.
yeah.
And I mean, all we got was like, give a hoot, don't pollute,
Right, right. And
maybe don't
Smokey the
mess with
Bear.
Texas, and
Yeah.
Smokey Bear. There were bad guys in this cartoon, had really cool names though. Like, here's some, this sounds like some of those Dickens names that we came up with. Here's some of the bad guys. Hoggish Greedley. You like that? Hoggish?
Sounds like it
nose?
also sounds like something from Harry Potter.
Loot and Plunder.
Loot and Plunder. That's like Dewey, Cheatham, and Howe.
Verminous Scum. Skumm.
Yeah. Okay.
And
that
then
one's...
before the actual video game that made this name famous, Captain Planet had a villain named Duke Nukem.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
And he had really famous people to do voice acting on these cartoons too, like Whoopi Goldberg and LeVar Burton, Martin Sheen, Jeff Goldblum, Meg Ryan, and Sting.
I was never a Sting must have been one of the bad guys.
You think he was Loot and Plunder?
I think you need an Englishman.
Venomous.
Like
Maybe it was Verminous Scum.
Verminous Scum, also known as Sting. I never watched this cartoon. I guess it was,
it came out when you were 20. So
yeah. But it sounds like it would be worth checking out.
Yeah. I mean, I think it was popular, and it wasn't just on Cartoon Network, but it was on his other stations. And then they syndicated it also to like Fox stations. So even people without cable could watch it.
Right.
But apparently people of the millennial generation would know Captain Planet. Yeah, we were a little older by then. Now, he was married 3 times. Can you name any of his wives?
Were they famous?
One of them was real famous.
No, I can't.
So from 1960 to 64, when he was still working on Billboards and he was driven and very volatile and dealing with his dad's death, he was married to a woman named Judy Nye. And then from 1965 to 1988, during his whole TBS, CNN, building wealth, being kind of difficult to live with, building an empire, from 1965 to 1988, he was married to a woman named Jane Smith.
Okay.
And then from 1991 to 2000, he was married to a woman who was equally larger than life for him and equally also very wealthy, and they just clicked. They just had a really good relationship. Jane Fonda.
That's right. Okay. Yes.
So they were married for 10 years. She got like $100 million in their divorce, but it wasn't a bitter divorce. In fact, she had beautiful things to say about him when he died. She said, "He swept into my life, a gloriously handsome, deeply romantic, swashbuckling pirate, and I've never been the same. Wow. He needed me. No one had ever let me know they needed me. And this wasn't your average human being that needed me. This was the creator of CNN and Turner Classic Movies, who had won the America's Cup as the world's greatest sailor." So he had her heart, man.
Yeah. That's a glowing review.
His charitable donations were really next level and more of today's type. Back then, charitable donations were like hospitals and universities and museums.
Yeah.
He was interested in things like nuclear disarmament and the environment and global health and conservation. He donated $1 billion to the United Nations.
Wow.
It was, I think, the largest donation ever given to anybody, any entity. He was at a dinner and one time with a bunch of rich people, and they were all complaining about the UN and he was noticing they weren't doing anything or contributing anything to these things that they were complaining about the UN. So, and he went the next day now there was no mechanism to give $1 billion to the UN. And that would have
to be a really giant check.
It was a third of his wealth too. Like
Wow.
this was not a small donation, but he thought that the United Nations, he really believed in them. He thought that that was humanity's best chance at eliminating war, poverty, dealing with climate change, and especially nuclear issue that he was really, really scared of all the time. And I think this kind of donation influenced later guys like, Bill Gates or Warren Buffett or
Yeah.
Mike
Yeah.
Bloomberg. He wasn't like a private, like a Rockefeller. Like, remember we talked about Rockefeller, but he also wasn't like, he played the hunches more than guys like Jeff Bezos, who's more into data, right? He's actually probably more similar to Elon Musk than any of those guys. And actually probably most similar to like a William Randolph Hearst,
Hmm. Yeah.
being a media
Publishing.
guy
Yeah.
too. He had overlap with, he was, now when I say overlap, I mean he was like these guys all rolled into one. Walt Disney, these guys that we've talked about in the past. Walt Disney, P.T. Barnum, Henry Ford, Rockefeller, Merv Griffin, Ray Kroc, Colonel Sanders, Howard Hughes, Carl Sagan, and Jim Henson all
And
rolled into one.
let's add Andre the Giant for his wrestling passion for wrestling.
In terms of guys he's met that we've talked about, he met Muhammad Ali. Muhammad Ali famously lit the torch or lit the cauldron at the 1996 Olympics in Atlanta.
That's right.
He was a big Carl Sagan guy. He put Carl Sagan on CNN every chance he could get. Talk about the climate. He had ran in the same circles as Merv Griffin in the entertainment circles. He put Howard Cosell on TV sometimes. And of course he owned Hanna-Barbera.
Yeah.
He didn't own the guys.
Wow.
He owned their company.
Right.
Yeah.
But
And I think
still,
Hanna-Barbera created, I think they created the Captain Planet.
oh, they actually did the illustration or the creative
It was
part.
his idea, but I think they made it. Yeah.
Wow.
Captain Planet.
Wow.
Now, as far as like Adult Swim, I don't think that's at all in his brand at all. I think he was like, but I think by the time Adult Swim came around, I think he wasn't involved or didn't own the company as much, I don't think he was a cynic at all. And I think Adult Swim is all about
Very cynical. Yeah.
I think the only similarities he would have is that let's put something weird on TV.
Yeah. Yeah.
Do you know how Adult Swim actually started? Was from Space Ghost Coast to Coast.
Yes.
That was the bridge between Cartoon Network and Adult Swim.
I loved Space Ghost Coast to Coast. I don't know how much of that you've watched, but it is
a little bit. Yeah.
It is hilarious. It was hilarious. I don't know if it holds up.
But that whole kind of Gen X cynicism, I don't think he was really down with a lot of that. And it's just like, I know that True TV is like part of that Turner umbrella now. I don't think he would be about that at all, other than just the idea that, there was a channel, the idea of like having niche channels. But, I think he thought you should do things better with TV than that. Or nostalgia. I mean, let's face it. He made his money by Gilligan's Island reruns. I mean, let's not make it too.
Well, that kind of goes back to your quote you said at the beginning. I think it was lead, follow, or get out of the way, right?
That was the name of his first biography. Yeah.
Yeah. And
lead, follow, or get out of the way.
And cynicism is none of those things, right? Cynicism isn't leading. It's really just complaining, to some degree.
Well, that was the guys that spurned him to donate to the UN, right?
Yeah,
just a bunch of rich guys complaining. It's like, well, you know what? Do something.
Yep. I'm going to lead. And
like
hopefully
that.
They'll follow.
I like that lead, follow, or get out of the way. It's like, just do something.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you might as well say, get out of my way.
Yep. And if you're going to follow, then you can contribute, but just getting out of the way, at least you're not slowing things down.
Yeah. Don't be part of the problem. Be part of the solution.
That's right. That's right.
It ain't as easy as it looks is a great title for a biography though. And I think it's cool that only one person can have that.
It would be a great title for a podcast too. Cause this isn't easy.
You could think of so many people whose autobiography should be called "It Ain't as Easy as It Looks," right?
Yeah.
You could slap that on just about anyone's, but he was the one that came up with that. Right?
Yeah. He was creative and cooked a mean steak.
Yeah. Yeah. So pour one out for Teddy.
Along with your bison, enjoy it responsibly and go Captain Planet.
Wind, water, heart, go planet!
By your powers combined, I am Captain Planet.
Captain Planet, he's our hero. Gonna take pollution down to zero. He's our powers magnified, and he's fighting on the planet side. Captain Planet, he's our hero. Gonna take pollution down to zero. Gonna help him put asunder bad guys who like to loot and plunder.
You'll pay for this, Captain Planet.
We're the Planeteers. You can be one too. 'Cause saving our planet is the